Hello and welcome to my presentation for PS4054. My name is Jenna and this presentation will aim to explore the link between mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, and sleep disturbance. So just to provide an outline of the presentation, to begin I will cover the background of the research area and outline why this is a subject I believe to be worthy of empirical investigation. Secondly, I will look at the psychological construct of MCI and in particular how MCI impacts cognitive abilities. The next section of this presentation will aim to discuss the relationship between MCI and sleep loss, and finally I will conclude with some challenges and barriers to this particular area of inquiry. The society we inhabit is often described as an ageing population, and it has been predicted that up to 20% of adults will be aged 65 years by 2050. There is also an assumption within the literature that age-related cognitive decline is a somewhat normative and inevitable part of growing older, but with the introduction of the psychological construct of mild cognitive impairment, this view is now being challenged. In addition to this, it has been reported extensively that older adults face unique challenges and shifts in their sleep quality, which may include, but is by no means limited to, rapid eye movement behaviour disorder, insomnia, excessive daytime tiredness and restless leg syndrome, among others. When it is considered that a strong bidirectional relationship exists between such sleep disturbances and the eventual onset of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and dementia, it is important that the relationship between these phenomena are investigated further. They should not necessarily be dismissed as part and parcel of the later stages of the human life course. The construct of mild cognitive impairment may therefore be useful in exploring this trend further, but also serves to challenge the assumption that cognitive decline is a normative phase of aging. Mild cognitive impairment is often characterised as being a precursor to Alzheimer's disease and dementia, with some studies suggesting a 50% conversion rate to neurodegenerative diseases within 5 years of being formally diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. For individuals with mild cognitive impairment, the cognitive dysfunction experienced does not fall within the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and there is often no major interference with instrumental activities of daily living. Mild cognitive impairment has a relatively short history as a psychological construct, with it only being formally labelled in 1988 by Riesberg. However, there are indeed accurate accounts of the symptomatology found within historical artefacts, including the description provided again by Riesberg, which was taken from an ancient Roman text by Juvenal. And he said, "For he who has it no longer knows the name of his slaves, or recognises the friend with whom he had dined the night before." So it's quite clear from this quote that forgetting or not recognising, and thus the cognitive functions of memory, are implicated in mild cognitive impairment. And indeed there are subtypes of MCI which link directly to the impairment of memory, which are 1. Amnestic types, whereby solely memory is impaired, and this is a trajectory that often leads to Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And 2. Amnestic multiple types, whereby memory and additional cognitive functions are affected. Neurological research with individuals diagnosed with amnestic type mild cognitive impairment suggests that there is some loss of grey matter in brain regions implicated in memory. And as mentioned earlier, there does appear to be a general consensus that MCI deterioration represents a very early stage of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and dementia. The syndrome also affects other cognitive abilities, which include, but are not limited to, problem solving, reasoning and planning, visual, spatial and visual depth perception, attention and language, and in particular difficulty remembering or accessing certain words. Now in the following slide we will be presented with a vivid example of mild cognitive impairment, which I found in a scene from the 2015 film Still Alice. And in the following clip we find the titular character Alice struggling to recall a particular word while delivering a lecture. Eventually, Alice's condition does indeed deteriorate until she can no longer perform instrumental activities or daily living, and she is diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease, by which point it's gone beyond mild cognitive impairment. But this clip, however, demonstrates the initial MCI, which can negatively impact upon cognitive functions of language.
Most children speak and understand their mother tongue before the age of 4 without lessons, homework, or much in the way of feedback. How do they accomplish this remarkable feat? Well, this is a question that has interested scientists at least since Charles Darwin kept a diary of the early language of his infant son. He observed, "Man has an instinctive tendency to speak as we see in the babble of young children." Much has been learned since then. But today, I'd like to focus on some recent studies from my lab on the acquisition of past tense irregular verb forms in children between the ages of 18 months and 2.5 years. Now, you may say that this falls into the great academic tradition of knowing more and more about less and less until we know everything about nothing. But I hope to convince you that by observing these baby steps into the I knew I shouldn't have had that champagne. Into the word stock of a given language, we will learn crucial information about the relationship between memory and computation that is the very essence of communication.
So, recent studies have explored the link between sleep disturbance and MCI, and evidence suggests that disrupted sleep quality may serve as a biomarker to the development of neurodegenerative diseases. The impact of sleep deprivation on cognitive function is well documented, with findings indicating that verbal learning and divided attention, reaction times, and memory consolidation are diminished by poor sleep quality. Sleep itself is a dynamic and regenerative process which provides a symphony of waves and neurochemicals, each colluding to restore and synthesize cognitive functions of attention, learning, and memory. Memory consolidation is encouraged through REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, and it has been found that the brain regions implicated in memory, such as the hippocampus and in particular the left prefrontal cortex, are activated or come online during deep stage sleep. It is claimed, however, that sleep is a modifiable behaviour and that napping in particular serves to exploit what has been termed brain plasticity, that is, the brain's ability to adjust, repair and adapt to new circumstances. In their longitudinal study of elderly at-risk populations, Keeg et al. Found that when measuring for cognitive impairment at 2 and 10 years, those who took naps for less than 1 hour each day benefited from its protective neurodegenerative features. Cognitive decline appeared to progress at a slower rate than those who did not nap or napped over 1 hour. Milner et al. Set the time capacity for maximum cognitive benefit at 20 minutes and agreed that napping does indeed serve to enhance or stabilise motor skills and memory consolidation. Sleep duration in general does seem to contribute substantially to the impact on cognitive function, with another longitudinal study finding that long sleepers experience neurodegeneration at a much quicker rate. Another 7-year study suggests that at-risk populations who slept for longer durations had greater cognitive decline, and Leone et al. And Chen et al. Both demonstrated that longer sleeps are indeed associated with reduced processing speed and poorer verbal memory. Conversely, very short sleepers have also been found to have impaired cognitive performance, as was the case for research conducted by Meyer et al. So moving on to what I believe are the challenges and barriers to research in the area of mild cognitive impairment and sleep disturbance. Although a wealth of research suggests a significant relationship between sleep disturbance and mild cognitive impairment, there are indeed challenges to establishing mild cognitive impairment as a reliable and clinically valid construct. It has been pointed out and mentioned earlier by Ritchie and Ritchie that MCI is not yet recognised by the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria, and some theorists question whether MCI is already just a very early stage of a neurodegenerative disease that has already taken hold. Such an early stage has previously been termed incipient dementia, or the 0.5 stage of questionable dementia. Furthermore, not all individuals meeting criteria for MCI will experience disruption to sleep. Variable findings also suggest that there is no relationship between cognitive deficit and sleep disturbance, with others emphasising the importance of individual differences, and state that factors such as medical burden and alcohol intake may have a greater influence on outcomes in cognitive function. And despite the growing knowledge base of the relationship between MCI and sleep disturbance, the clinical application of the concept has proved challenging, with some claiming that it is a harsh reality that there is yet to be a successful treatment for the disorder. It appears that in some cases, individuals with MCI can be aided by memory training exercises, as was the result of research by Olchik et al., who trialled an 8-session memory improvement course with adults aged over 60 years with MCI. However, any observed improvement in cognitive function only lasted as long as the course, and it was recommended that such programs be delivered on a regular basis for longer lasting results. Information provided by the NHS emphasises that most mild cognitive impairment will either stabilise or deteriorate to a neurodegenerative disease, and it is therefore suggested that any treatment should be palliative, therapeutic and preventative, with the aims of slowing down the progression of mild cognitive impairment. So on to conclusions. As we have explored in this presentation, the modifiable behaviour of sleep may be one such cost-effective and non-pharmacological avenue by which cognitive integrity may be preserved or prolonged in the context of mild cognitive improvement. Novel approaches have proved insightful in revealing the mechanisms of sleep and its restorative processes in relation to memory, other cognitive functions, and researchers are now incorporating techniques into their methodology, such as video polysomnography and actigraphy. In conclusion, early identification of neurodegenerative diseases is crucial for implementing treatment early to prolong cognitive functions while the individual is still able to make informed choices about their health. Sleep does appear to serve an important protective mechanism that may contribute to the maintenance of cognitive functions, and this is surely a relationship worth exploring further. Thank you for listening, and I hope that this presentation was both informative and insightful. Thank you.